zu diesem wahren und echten Aufschrei, der heute durch Deutschland geht. Und meine erste Frage, Franziska, ist, wie seid ihr auf die Idee gekommen, warum habt ihr euch da vor die Kamera gestellt und dieses Video gemacht?
Also nach Kandel ist die Stimmung in Deutschland eigentlich in Wut umgekippt, also die Leute sind nicht mehr betroffen, ja? Es wird nicht mehr, also es gibt noch so eine kurze Trauerphase und dann sind die Leute eigentlich nur noch sauer, weil inzwischen kann eigentlich niemand mehr verstehen, wie diese Asylpolitik so weiter gemacht werden kann, weil es gibt inzwischen fast täglich irgendwelche Vorfälle, also das geht jetzt praktisch so im Wochentakt, dass wieder eine neue Meldung kommt und die Leute wollen das einfach nicht mehr. Und wir haben einfach gesehen, dass es jetzt an der Zeit ist, dass die Frauen aufstehen und auch was machen, zumal die ganzen, sag ich mal, etablierten Feminismusbewegungen bisher einfach komplett versäumt haben, dieses Thema anzusprechen. Und gerade auch Alice Schwarzer, ja, die Urfeministin, die dieses Thema angesprochen hat, wurde sofort als Nazi diffamiert und da gab es dann eine riesen Debatte und sie hat einfach nur ein Thema angesprochen, das ganz offensichtlich ist und das immer problematischer für die Frauen in Deutschland und in Europa wird. Und ja, das subjektive und das objektive Sicherheitsgefühl aller Frauen hat eigentlich abgenommen. Darunter leidet einfach auch die Lebensqualität. Auch dein persönliches, du hast ja auch ein Erlebnis getwittert. Ja, das war wirklich, er hat sich umgedreht und zwischen den Stühlen, also es ist nicht nur, ich saß nicht gegenüber von ihm und er hat ab und zu mal geschaut, sondern er hat sich umgedreht und zwischen den Bahnstühlen mich angegafft. Ja. Wahnsinn. Man hat auch am Blick gesehen, dass es jetzt nicht irgendwie, ja, wir schauen uns nur mal gerade irgendwie versehentlich in die Augen, weil sich die Blicke begegnen, sondern es war wirklich Gaffen. Ja. Und ich höre das permanent von Frauen. Und was du sagst, du fühlst dich alleingelassen von der MeToo-Bewegung. Das muss man sich vorstellen. In den letzten Monaten der größte Hashtag, die größte Bewegung für Frauenrechte und kein Sterbenswörtchen. Kein Wort darüber. Über Kandel, nichts. Eine reine Heuchelei eigentlich. Ja, und das ist halt diese Bewegung, gerade MeToo, das war einfach absolut ja, heuchlerisch eigentlich. Ja. Also es ging halt darum, ja, teilt eure Erlebnisse damit und im Endeffekt haben Leute da Sachen reingeschrieben, unter dieser Vergewaltigung läuft alles. Ja? Da geht es um dumme Kommentare von deinem Arbeitskollegen. Also wenn du dich über ein falsches Kompliment eines Kollegen von 15 Jahren aufregst, bist du mutig. Aber wenn du dich aufregst über tatsächlich Frauen, die vergewaltigt werden, systematisch missbraucht werden wie in Rotherham, dann missbrauchst du Frauenthemen für politische Sachen. Was sind denn die Erlebnisse, was sind denn die Reaktionen jetzt von diesen klassischen MeToo-Verdächtiginnen auf den Hashtag 120 Dezibel folgen? Also die Reaktionen, muss ich persönlich sagen, sind absolut irre teilweise, ja. Also zum einen war dann, ja, ihr werdet ja nur benutzt von den Männern, ja, obwohl die selber immer sagen, ja, Frauen sind total stark und können alles, ihre Meinung selber und so. Außer die kriegen alles von Männern vorgesagt, die haben keine eigene Meinung, die werden nur vorgeschoben. Dann war auch so der Klassiker, ja, ihr postet ja überhaupt ihr habt ja alle gar keine Vergewaltigung von einem Flüchtling erlebt, wo ich mich ja auch frage, wie kann man das jetzt als Argument anbringen? Wie viele von uns müssen denn vergewaltigt werden, dass ihr das ernst nehmt, was wir...
So, as usual, the alt-right has decided to co-opt victimhood with this new fake Me Too movement, where white women who haven't actually been victims of rape, or white nationalist women, because I don't want people to get the impression these are like regular run-of-the-mill white ladies. These are specifically women with political who are adhering to a specific ideological platform and are constructing a careful political narrative about the threat of brown men coming from the third world to rape white women. And that's the reason we need to establish a fascist state, is to defend the aforementioned. It's so fascinating, the weird relationship in the alt-right between protecting women and women becoming property. So like, it's these same dudes that are proposing a restoration of coverture where women have no legal rights, And that would include, here's what's funny. If the alt-right had their way, women would not have the right to claim consent. Meaning that if your white husband wanted to have sex with you and you refused, under the alt-right system of sexual politics and political governance, you wouldn't be able to say no, and if he raped you, it wouldn't be illegal. So it's not that the alt-right cares about rape, and it's not that the alt-right cares about, rape as, the law not following up on rapes. They're concerned about brown men getting away with raping white women. They don't talk about these migrant dudes from these Muslim countries raping, beating, and murdering their own wives and children because of Sharia law. They don't give a fuck about that. Fuck those women. Fuck the women that come here with their husband from Syria as a refugee and get raped and beaten and burned to death. Fuck her. You touched my white angel. You touched my blonde little girl. Now there's a serious problem. Now, you know what I mean? It always comes back to, like, what people imagine these threats to white people are versus what they actually are. Most of these white women, statistically, just based on the population of white men versus the population of brown migrant men in these European countries, are like 3 or 4 times more likely to get raped by a white man than this, like, brown guy on the subway who's looking at you. That white guy standing next to you is actually statistically more likely to rape you and get away with it than the brown guy that you're actually terrified of. Their movement is called 120 dB, which is, their response to the Me Too movement is basically the sound of a rape whistle. And, the thing about Me Too is about women telling their stories of being sexually harassed and sexually assaulted in the workplace and beyond. What's funny about 120 decibels is that it's about women talking about imaginary crimes, about the theoretical threat of being raped and sexually harassed by migrant men, and then secondhand co-opting of actual rape cases where migrant men may have raped a local woman. And they don't have anybody in this movement that was an actual victim of rape or sexual assault by a migrant man. They're just co-opting the language of the feminist movement to sell a fake progressive, fascism rebranded as progressivism, to participate in the narrative. And I think it is too, because, if you listen very carefully to what she says, first she says that the Me Too movement has taken harmless things and turned them into rape. So, like, firstly, she's doing the right-wing thing of saying, oh, all the Me Too people are lying. And then she goes, well, the Me Too movement is hypocritical because then they don't let us speak. So wait a minute, they're lying and they're blowing things out of proportion. But a black guy looking at you on a train, that's not you blowing something banal out of proportion. That's not you taking some boring everyday thing and turning it, like, I sometimes think that right-wingers don't actually pay attention to the correlatives when they're doing this stuff. Like, it can't all be cynical. It's got to be that they're stupid. It's got to be that they're so kind of, there's a through line of egocentricity and reactionary politics, and it's typified by Trump, I guess, in the United States, is this idea of, I can accuse you. I can claim victimhood for something that I won't allow you to claim victimhood for. Oh, well, why is it wrong then? No, because it happened to me. You don't understand. You're obviously lying about your rape story. You're obviously lying about your sexual harassment and assault story. We're talking about me now. This is an entirely different thing. Don't you understand? I'm under threat. It's me. We're talking about white women, bro. Do you understand that we're a fucking resource more valuable than gold in the Western world? What's funny is, as usual, the alt-right doesn't represent the majority of white women. If you poll the majority of white women in the European countries, they're not going to support this movement because they're not walking. You know what women are worried about? Being raped, whether it's a brown guy or a white guy or a black guy or a dude from Africa or a dude from Denmark or a dude from Sweden. Doesn't really matter to the average woman because, you know, it's not even like this idea that, like, rape is built into the Muslim world in a way that it's not built into the Western world. I thought would have been debunked by the Me Too / Time's Up movement, that rape culture is not a Sharia thing, it's a man thing, it's a patriarchy thing. It's so funny how right-wingers are always willing to acknowledge patriarchy as long as it has an Arab face. As long as it's got a brown face on it, they're willing to acknowledge any kind of social malignancy. You know what I mean? So they're willing to acknowledge rape, but it has to be under a very specific circumstance. And that's kind of like their secret too in the alt-right, is that they don't think it's possible for a white man, a right-wing white man to rape a woman. That's the secret of all this stuff, is that they believe that they're entitled. And I've heard alt-righters talk about women being issued to men. This is deep in incel territory, involuntary celibates. But the one of the promises of the alt-right was one that was carried out by Hitler, was basically that, like, women were apportioned to men as like breed mares of the state. This is kind of like the reason these alt-right politics appeal to these men's rights activists, pickup artist people, is because they literally see a fascist culture in which, just based on race, they are entitled to a woman. Well, it's like it's a eugenics thing, you know? It's why they bitch so much about cuckoldry. They feel like white women are their property and it's being taken away. Not white women they know, not white women that they've dated, not their ex-wife. They literally think that any white woman walking down the street is their property, their genetic property. She owes her eggs to the race, and by proxy to any man who is a member of the race. And if she gives her eggs to anyone who is not a member of the race, she is betraying their tribal interests. So don't buy the first wave of alt-right feminism during Thoughtgate, when people like Tara McCarthy were being told to shut up, and Tara McCarthy was like, I'm fighting for women's rights to speak for covert chore. This is the same thing. This is a progressive idea presented within a conservative frame. So it's this idea of, we need to speak about women's rights. No, wait. Specifically, women's rights to not be harassed by brown men.